All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
The borrower is a slave to the lender. If you owe someone money, you're not fully free. And that's a quote from today's guest, George Kamel. But what if your credit score obsession, your plans to buy now and pay later, and lifestyle creep are actually what's keeping you broke and held back in today's society? What if everything you've been told about money, credit scores, student loans, and even buying your dream home was a lie? George Kamel used to be broke, stressed, and buried in debt. But today, he's a millionaire helping millions break free from the financial traps that our modern society celebrates. In this episode, he reveals the truth about money that no one else is telling you, about how to reclaim your financial freedom one step at a time. Meet today's guest, George Kamel. He's a debt ditcher, mindset flipper, and financial freedom fighter. He was once buried in $40,000 of debt, and he was living paycheck to paycheck, which I'm sure many of us can relate to. George discovered the Ramsey Plan, however, and he paid off everything in 18 months and transformed himself into a net worth millionaire by his mid-30s. He's now on a mission to help others break free from the myths that keep them broke, like the obsession with credit scores, lifestyle creep, and even worse, having a normal amount of debt. Through his book, Breaking Free from Broke, and his wildly popular podcast and YouTube channel, George empowers everyday people to take back control of their money and their life. He's a national best-selling author of Breaking Free from Broke and a personal finance expert. Following Ramsey Solutions' proven money plan, George went from negative net worth to a millionaire in under 10 years. Since 2013, he has served on the Ramsey team. He's speaking across the country, co-hosting top-ranked Ramsey Network podcasts like Smart Money, Happy Hour, and The Ramsey Show. George has been featured on Fox News, Fox Business, and the Iced Coffee Hour, among many other networks. And on his YouTube channel, he educates and entertains, exposing the financial system designed to keep you broke. His goal is to help people, everyday people, spend less, save money, and avoid money traps so that they can live a life with more margin, options, and freedom. And now, let's get to the interview. You're one of those guys that you just can't help but trust. But for people who don't recognize you, and they should be ashamed, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh man, how would I introduce myself? I would say I was the average George. I had immigrant parents and grew up falling for all the money traps that most people do. You know, some student loans, some credit cards, trying to build my credit score, trying to get, education and go to college to pursue the opportunity and the American dream. And I found myself frustrated, anxious, stressed out, depressed, going, this can't be it. Like sitting there with $40,000 in debt, going, this is it. I don't even make $40,000. How am I ever going to pay this off? Like, how am I going to buy a house and travel and do all the things I want to do? And so I found the Ramsey plan, got an internship here at Ramsey back in 2013, and it changed my life. And I got out of that consumer debt in 18 months, met my wife here at Ramsey. We bought our first home together, started off our marriage debt-free, paid off our home in our early 30s, and became net worth millionaires a year after that. And so I'm now in my mid-30s going, oh my gosh, like if a knucklehead like me who made a bunch of money mistakes can turn it around and go from negative net worth to millionaire in 10 years, like I got to get this message out there that it's possible for all the other average Georges and Joes and Ians out there.
Because I'm a major fan of your Breaking Free from Broke book. I put it on Audible and it's like you're just talking to me, telling me where I was going wrong all those years. But
Thank you.
I
You sound
find
so much cooler when you say it, by the way. I wish you would have read the audiobook.
I find, well, it's a Scottish accent, of course, you know. I find that a lot of, we're the first generation where we're actually living on debt. Where, you know, it's cool to owe money to buy the latest pair of trainers and rather, you know, not be able, like what's it they said in one of the films, it's they can afford a Lamborghini, but they haven't got enough to fill the tank of fuel. You know, it's that
Mm.
you're living off borrowed image. What did you notice? Because your parents are from the Middle East and Africa, what did you notice about the more traditional values towards money from those countries compared to this consumerism, all image driven crap that we have over here?
Well, the funniest thing is I get messages from people all over the world, and they go, George, over here, like it's normal to use debit. It's weird to use credit. Like you would be made fun of if you finance furniture. And in America, it's celebrated. They're like, oh, you made the wise decision. That's really smart. Get the 0% financing. And so what I found is that there is a unique piece of American culture that says debt is a way of life. Debt is the path to wealth. Debt is normal. It's okay to have debt. Everyone has it. It's just part of your everyday breathing. And I thought that can't be right because it wasn't long ago where we didn't have access to all of this debt. We didn't have the credit score to tell us how we were doing financially. All of this was newer. Like we're talking a few decades, everything shifted in America. And you know, it's the dark this is the kind of the dark side of capitalism, but debt makes a lot of money. When you charge someone 6% interest on a mortgage and 25% APR on the credit card and 9% on the car loan, the lenders and banks, if you go downtown, all the skyscrapers have their name on it. All the stadiums have their name on it. And
Mm.
so they're making a lot of money while keeping everyone else broke. And we're sitting here shaking our fists at the sky, wondering who's going to fix it because this all just happened to us and we had nothing to do with it. And inflation and the president, they got to. And it's like, you got to look in the mirror at some point and go, man, I did some stupid stuff. I was an accomplice in these financial crimes, and I'm the one who's going to fix it. I'm the solution.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? No one wants to take ownership of it. It's always someone else's fault of why you're bad with money. But that's the thing is, if money is a building block of the world and it makes the world go round, it keeps us fed, keeps us housed, etc. Why are men so generally bad with it compared to what our grandfathers were? What have you seen that more attitude now of the comparison, the likes, the instant gratification compared to proper values like our grandpas would have had?
100%. I think, delayed gratification is starting to just fade away as people go, no, but I want it now. Like everything in my life is now. Like I don't 2-day shipping, I need it today. Do the overnight shipping. I can't wait that long. And so social media has made it worse. Technology has made it worse because we have access to everything 24/7 all the time, and no one gets to tell me I can't have it now. We're basically like reverting to toddlers when it comes to money. What I found is that people who win with money have a more tortoise mentality versus the hare mentality. They're more the crock pot instead of the microwave. And so they're okay moving at a slower pace, knowing this is the right path. I don't need to move as fast as my buddy over there, even though his life is actually not great, but Instagram makes me think it's great because he took a picture with his new car, but I don't see the $700 car payment he has to make every month. And so that's what's really happened. I think our older generations, they had common sense and they had to move at a slower pace. And now because we can move so much faster, that's all we know. And it's all we want to do. But I found that, even the Bible says wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. And so if you're getting rich slow, that is the best way to get rich fast. And the people who are trying to get rich fast, they're going to fall on their face. And they get real loud when things are going well. They get real quiet when things aren't going great. And I just want a more peaceful path. And that's what the Ramsey plan gave me. You just go, hey, don't owe people money. Have a bunch of money in the bank for emergencies and for a rainy day. Save up and pay cash for things you can actually afford in full and invest for the future. That's the crux of the Ramsey plan. And it's so controversial now because of how wayward our culture has gone.
It's definitely something you see every day. It's like, here's the best product ever. Buy that car you need. And then you get the financial statement said it's supersonic speed with, here's your APR, and you look at the bottom of the screen, it's like APR is 32%, and you can see people going, yeah, I need a new car. And they've got a brand new one sitting out there. And how have you noticed our beliefs about money? Because we are dictated by society at the minute. But have you noticed that people either have a fixed or growth mentality with money? They believe they can change. They believe they're good with money or bad with money. How would you start even shaping somebody that they could be better with money?
Well, a lot of it has to do with your past. I mean, that's what shapes you. So your childhood, the way you grew up with money, the money you didn't have growing up, the way your family handled money, the fights that your mom and dad had, the
Mm,
trauma that caused you to make certain decisions in life and go into debt. All of that factors into your mindset and mentality around money. And so what I found is we have to get to the root of what's causing it. And there's usually a fear around it. Maybe there's a scarcity mindset where you go, "Oh my gosh, I'll never have enough, and therefore I'll never be wealthy. So therefore I'll just leverage my life to have it now because I'll probably never really afford it. And if I can just
mm,
afford the payment, I'll be okay for now." And that has backfired for so many Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck now because
yeah.
what they thought they could afford is crushing them. And so when it comes to mindset, what's interesting on the flip side is we did a study of over 10,000 millionaires, the largest study ever done of net worth millionaires. And we asked an interesting question. Um, do you believe you control your financial destiny? And 97% of millionaires said, I believe that I control my financial destiny, that I have a lot of effect over what happens when it comes to my money. And the average person, we found that it was around 60%. And so that's a huge gap. But the people who actually created wealth believe they had control over it. And so that's a piece where people go, man, the world is going the way it's going. Inflation is crazy. The housing market's crazy. I'll never get ahead. And so if you believe that, what are you going to do? You're going to do nothing. You're going to make your minimum payments, keep accumulating some more payments here and there, and just hope to God that you can afford it for the rest of your life. And the people who win with money, who believe that they can actually build wealth, they go, life's too short to send payments to lenders for the next 30 years. I'm going to get out of this debt and stay out of debt so that I have more control over what happens with my money. No lender is going to tell me what to do. And so that's the biggest shift in mentality, is simply believing that you have control over your financial destiny, that you have agency over it.
Because I was just thinking just now, friends like you when you were saying that, who were like, "Oh yeah, I never save. What's the point of saving? What's the point of budgeting?" So they'll
Can't
go
save your way to wealth. Oh boy. Yeah, it's like Eeyore, it's their spirit animal.
and it doesn't matter how much money they make on any job, they're always spending even more. It's almost like a license, or they can't just be happy with where they currently are. And I
Oh, that
think
discontentment is real. And you're right. It leads to something called lifestyle creep, where the more you make, the more you spend. And the more you go, well, I can absorb another payment here. Let me go into debt a little more, get a nicer car. And you're right. It's the reason why people feel like it's never enough. They always go, well, now I need to make 150,000. I thought when I made 100,000, I would be crushing it, and it's not enough. And I go, well, let's look at your financial life. Oh, it's filled with debt payments. No wonder you feel like you're strapped.
yes.
And you bought way too much house before you could really afford it. No wonder you're strapped. Your mortgage is 65% of your take-home pay. And so it's a math problem, but a lot of people just they gotta keep up, and it's what's killing us. We gotta just move slower and run our own race.
But is it, if you look, because we always blame the shadow figure, the deep state, the whoever the bogeyman is at the minute, do we focus rightly on the financial giants and say they're bamboozling us with how they're wording their documentation, they're not explaining it properly? Or is it the problem on the schools that we know about trigonometry and things like that, but we don't know about interest, debt, what it means to pay something in installments and APR and things like that? Where does the blame lie, do you think? And what would you want kids to learn going forward?
That's a great question. I think it's a mix of a few things, and if you have less of it, the worse it gets. So financial literacy is a big part. Do I understand the basics of how money works, how debt works, how interest works, how compound growth works? And that's a huge part. And we're working on that with our high school curriculum. We are now in 48% of high schools in the U.S. teaching kids about how to budget, how to save up and pay cash, the dangers of student loans and car payments, and how it hurts them financially in their adult life. And then on the other side, you have a lot of predatory financial institutions and companies and lenders who want you to not read the fine print. They want you to go, I don't even know what the interest, I didn't know how the debt worked if I didn't pay it back, and what's going to happen and what a repo is. And all of that coming together is the perfect storm. A lack of financial literacy mixed with a bunch of predatory companies that want to go after your wallet. That is the scariest place to be. And so then what is the best option? How do you get out of that? Well, number one, get the financial literacy. Read a book like Breaking Free from Broke that I wrote. And then on top of that, understand that these companies are out to get you. And so here's what I do. I don't play with snakes because eventually you're going to get bit. And so I don't try to game the system. Instead, I just said, I'm going to buck the system. What if I just didn't have a credit score at all and I just paid cash for things? And I found that my life got so much simpler, so much more peaceful, and that all of the lies that were floating around from society, misguided guidance counselors and parents going, oh, you need to get a credit score. As soon as you're 18, get a bunch of credit cards to build your credit score so you can get more debt. That's essentially what they're saying. And that I think is the gateway drug, especially in America today, is the credit score. We've put it on such a pedestal that parents are adding their kids as authorized users on their credit card so that their kids can build a credit history so that when they're 18, they can borrow money at better terms and rates. And I'm going, this is really the path that we're setting up for our kids to just get ensnared into the lender's trap at an early age when their prefrontal cortex isn't even developed. Because that's what causes it, right? You get a credit score and you get a credit card and you go, well, debt's okay now. I'll take on a student loan. I'll take on a car payment. I'll get a mortgage because my parents said renting is a waste of money. And all this has led to us feeling like we'll never get ahead and that inflation and the boogeyman and the deep state and the politicians are the problem. And I'm going, if that's where you're looking for your solution, you are going to die miserable, waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to change your life.
Because that's what I love about your book is you actually teach people how to fix it, but do it in a nice way. You take them through the baby steps. You take them through the A, B, C, D, E, F and how to start. Because a lot of us sit just now, I've heard friends say, I'll just get a payday loan. What's the APR?
Oh, gosh, not the payday loan.
And they have no idea what the APR is. I've had somebody say
100% on those payday loans.
Well, I've had somebody say to me, "Oh, I'll just go bankrupt. That'll solve all my credits." And you're just like, it's shaking your head. But do you believe it? Ramit Sethi.
Oh yeah.
Do you believe in his approach that we spend too long on saving the pennies, stopping drinking the lattes? That's the advice we get from traditional figures, whereas you're actually telling the truth of how to reshape our finances, how to know the truth, how to fix it. And we don't ask for the raise. We don't restructure our credit card debts for a more manageable payments. We don't do the big hits. We would focus on the little things to feel involved, but they don't really shift it either way.
I think there's some truth to that. If you're driving 48 miles to save 5 cents on gas, like do the math and go, okay, what is this really adding up to in my life? Is it worth the little cost saving? So I understand what Ramit's saying on that side, but on the Ramsey side, what we found is that, personal finance is 80% behavior. It's 20% head knowledge. And so that behavior, those habits, it's the drawing the line in the sand and burning the ships that causes you to become debt-free and stay debt-free. And so the latte, to his credit, it's not the thing that's going to get you into a house. If I cut my $5 latte, I'll be able to buy a home. Ha, 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 Dave Ramsey. It's not that at all. It's saying if you're willing to make a sacrifice for a short period of time to win, then you're going to have a long-term success. But most people simply aren't willing to give up their little vices in life that they think are what's keeping them happy in order to have true, long-lasting joy on the other side. And so to Ramit's point, I think he's wrong in that the little stuff does matter and it does add up, and it's more of a marker and a symbol that I'm done. I'm done living this way. And so, yes, is eating out one time going to cause you to be broke? No, but cutting it out for a year or two tells me that you're actually going to succeed at getting out of debt because nothing is going to stop you. And so the vices are a symbol. It's a symptom, but I think he's right that there's a bigger underlying problem to solve and there's bigger fish to fry. But I think it's still part of it. It's all wrapped up in it because habits, whether they're big or small, affect your life.
And then when you couple that with the social media aspect where they see, Billy with a new car, Gene with a new house, and you think, oh, somebody will think I'm not as valuable as a person of them, despite the fact that it's you as a person, not... It's a sad state of affairs we've got into just now. But what if we flip to the side of nobody understands what debt is? They think it's just something that we'll worry about in the future. But you're robbing Peter to pay Paul sort of thing. How do we even start understanding debt, like if we're making a purchase? And how do we use like the debt snowball versus the debt avalanche approach? Because you mentioned these in your books and it's such common sense and you outline it beautifully. But everybody thinks, no, budget. I'll buy my lunch. I'll take my lunch to work. That'll save me the £50,000 car I've just bought.
Mm.
We don't seem to be able to understand big purchases versus our small habits, but then we don't understand how to actually start approaching debt. So could you talk a little bit it's a very waffled way of saying, could you explain about debt and what it really means?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, debt is one of these things that, because it's been normalized and you just think it's a way of life, it just becomes a thing that it's a stepping stone to get to where you want to go, to get the thing faster. And we've celebrated it, like I mentioned earlier. And debt is simply owing anything to anyone for any reason. And we've sort of forgot that. And again, like this company was founded on a lot of biblical principles. And regardless of your faith background, there's so much wisdom in the book of Proverbs alone. And one of my favorite verses is this: the borrower is slave to the lender. And there's no context. Proverbs is meant to be like a bunch of tweets. And so you go, okay, the borrower is slave to the lender. That means I have a master. I am not in full control of my life when I owe other people money. And we've seen this affect relationships. If you let your buddy borrow $100 and he doesn't pay you back, he's not going to be your buddy very long. Like, that's going to cause resentment on your side. It's going to cause guilt and shame on his side. And we've seen this with family. And so debt in any relationship with a lender, it's going to cause harm to your life. I've never seen debt be a blessing to someone. And so when we talk about things like financial freedom, rarely do we talk about debt freedom as a part of that. We just think, well, if we can just make enough money with passive income and a business, then we're going to be okay and afford our payments on the fancy stuff that we really couldn't afford and propping up our lifestyle artificially. So that's what debt does. And then psychologically, the studies show that when you use someone else's money and you get to pay it back later, you treat it differently than if it was your own money, especially if it was cold, hard cash. That adds a lot of pain and friction to your life when you feel that cash leave your hand. Instead, we go, tap to pay with the credit card. I get my card back and I get my stuff. Psychologically, you felt no pain. But the statement shows up and you got to make that payment, or you make the minimum payment and get charged 25% APR. And so people don't feel the pain immediately. They just feel it in a very just sort of numbing way for the rest of their life. Or they go, this can't be it. Like, my life, I've got to be made for more than just paying the bills and making rent and living paycheck to paycheck. And you're right, there is more, but debt is the problem. Because what I found is most people don't need to go make more money. Sometimes income is the problem, but it's the debt payments that are crushing them. And when life was going great, they could afford it. And the calls we get on the Ramsey Show is when life happened and they lost the job, their income got cut in half, a spouse went to stay home, and now these payments that were once manageable are unmanageable. And so we got to start teaching people about money management instead of debt management if we want to see them win financially.
Because it's terrifying, isn't it? It's like everybody will get their bills, their receipts, and all that, and they just stick them in a drawer. Yeah, that's tomorrow Ian's problem. We'll deal with that when it comes. And then suddenly they wonder how they're 3, 8, 9, 40,000 in debt. And, it's just like, oh, I don't know how that happened. And you're like, just look at your expenditure. It's simple. But there's so much in the book about taking through the baby steps, the big purchases, how to eliminate the things and that. But if you asked anybody in the street just now, what's an indicator of your financial success? They would say the credit score. Why is that? And you outline it in the book why it's a false dichotomy. It's not a true representation, or it's not something we should use. Why do we fall back on the credit score or believe it to be of value of use?
Well, the credit score, it wasn't developed very long ago. I mean, we're talking about like the 90s when this started to become a thing. And the reason was they wanted an easier way to know if someone was a reputable borrower. Should I give them money? Well, instead of going through all of their finances and their tax returns and their income, and they could just look at a credit score to go, okay, they've paid other payments in the past on time, so I think we can trust them with this. And so it became an easy way for lenders to make more money, and so it became standardized. And so then people went, well, I guess I need a good credit score because I need to look good in the eyes of the lenders, and therefore we started chasing this thing. And in the book, I talk about the old story of Sisyphus, who was tasked with pushing the rock up the hill every single day for the rest of his life for nothing.
Yep.
And I try to show people that this is what you're doing with a credit score. What are you really doing when you unpack it? What is the credit score made up of? Well, every piece of it is your relationship to lenders. That's it. It's like, here's all of my ex-girlfriends. They all vouched for me that I was a good guy. And then I took them out on nice dates. I paid for all the dates. That's all it is. It's just a history book of your bad previous relationships. It doesn't actually tell people how good you are with money. It just tells them how good you are with debt. And every single factor, when you look at it, payment history is 35%. Amounts owed, 30%. Length of credit history, 15%. New credit, 10%. Your mix of credit, you got to have a little potpourri, a little variety in there. That's 10%. That's what actually makes up your credit score. It doesn't look at your income. It doesn't look at how much money you have in the bank. All it does is look at your past relationship with debt. And therefore, when I decided, you know what, I'm going to live a better life if debt's not a part of it, my credit score went away. 6 to 12 months after I got out of my consumer debt, my credit score became indeterminable. So when I went to go check my score, it says, hey, we got nothing for you, man. You got no credit history here. And the big fear with people is now we've tied it to, well, how are you going to rent an apartment? Because they check. How are you going to rent a car? How are you going to make big purchases? How are you going to get a house? How are you going to get a job? They check everyone's checking your credit. And what I found was everyone sat on a throne of lies. Because as I went to go rent an apartment, they went, okay, we might need a little extra in the deposit, but yeah, you can rent as long as you don't have a criminal background and you can make the payment. We're good with it. I went, oh, okay. And I went to rent a car. They all have debit card policies and they don't really care. As long as you can pay, you can rent a car. And even for a house, I went through a process called manual underwriting, which, like I said earlier, back in the day before credit scores, let's say in the 80s, if you wanted to buy a house, the lender would look at your actual financial picture. What is your income? What is your debt to income ratio? Okay, now we can let this person borrow this money based on all these factors. And so all of that just led me to go, oh, this was just created by the financial deep state, if you will, going like the lenders are going to make more money if they standardize this. It makes their life easier. It's going to make them more money, speed things along to get more people into their trap. And then everyone else went, well, I guess this is the game I have to play. And so what I'm trying to get people to learn in the book is that you don't have to play this game. You don't have to fall into the trap that is set before you. There's another way. Yes, it's a little bit harder. There's a few more hoops to jump through, but it's such a simpler, more peaceful life that will guarantee you a path to wealth.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
Because it is a great read, but it's like a favourite uncle standing beside you and saying, just because everybody's done this, you don't need to do this. You know, this is the lie that we get told. You can actually stay out of debt, afford that big purchase later, and here's how you can do this. And you break down a lot of the stigmas, a lot of the misconstrued beliefs about money. But what did you find about your own journey from broke to potential billionaire? How did you find...
So kind, thank you.
What did you find about that is the kind of like, if you were sitting down with the younger George now, what would you say to him about your attitudes of money then versus now?
Well, the reasons I went into debt were, they're paved with good intentions, right? When I was going to school, well, I was like, I don't have $40,000 sitting around, and my parents didn't either, but we could access loans. And so I went, okay, I guess this is what I have to do. And everyone says I'll just be able to pay off the loans. I'll get a great job since I'll have a college degree. And so I would tell young George, don't fall for the trap. Don't believe that a piece of paper is the key to your financial success in life. You are the key to your financial success. The guy in the mirror, not the piece of paper that you paid $40,000 for. And so I truly believe I'd be where I am today, if not further along faster, if I had not gone into that student loan debt. If I hadn't swiped those credit cards to try to up my score. And if we're going to be honest, to buy things that I wanted that I could not pay cash for at the time. And so all of that kind of that instant gratification really stunted my financial growth. And so that's what people don't realize. And I wish I could tell every person who's out there, younger or older, hey, the longer you sit in this maze, the more stunted your growth is going to be, and the more guilt, shame, regret, frustration, anger you're going to have toward your past and toward your future. It's going to look bleaker because now you have less time on your side. And time really is the greatest asset that we have. And that's why I love teaching the younger folks, especially because I'm going, man, you are 25. If you get this stuff now and you do this for 40 years, you're going to be a multi-millionaire. Because I hear the calls from people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s going, I didn't save a dime, and Social Security is $1,400 a month, and my bills are $3,000, and I don't know how I'm going to eat next week. And that doesn't have to be you. Like, with the power of compound growth and debt freedom, there is no reason that anyone can't retire a millionaire in America today.
Because it's terrifying, isn't it, when you see a lot. I read somewhere in like the UK, something like 45% admitted they didn't have any savings at all. No pension, no personal savings at all. Not
Yeah,
even up
that's
to
about the stat
£1,000.
here. 4 out of 10 in the US, 0 in savings.
It's horrific. And you think people have worked their whole life and from paycheck to paycheck, raised families, and then suddenly went, oh, when you actually stop and look to the future rather than what's happening next week and that. But how do we actually come to stock of where we are and be completely honest about all debts, all loans, credit card? Because you talk like a very friendly uncle in the book. You know, you guide us through it. But could you explain to somebody listening who's maybe panicking about their money situation how they can actually come to true terms with their true level of debt?
Well, I'm gonna just say this: it's my favorite place for someone to be is ready for a change. Where they're going, all right, I'm listening, man. I'm ready for a change. Because otherwise, you're throwing all this advice on rocky soil because they're not ready. They don't feel enough pain in their life to where they're ready to make that change. And so when people say, hey, man, I'm struggling, tell me what to do, I'm ready, I get real excited because I know that they're actually going to do this stuff. And so what the first thing to do to take stock, I would pull a credit report and go, okay, what is all of my debts? For most people, they've buried their head in the sand. They don't really know the balance. They don't really know the interest rates. They're just trying to keep up with payments and trying to get to next month. The second thing to do, quit borrowing money. It's impossible to pay off debt if you're continually going into debt. And so you got to cut up the card. This is burning the ships, right? This is I'm not going back. I'm not going to swipe that card one more time. I'm not going to keep it around as a security blanket while the credit card companies screw me over. And so you have to decide, I'm done borrowing money. I'm going to take a real look at my financial picture, look in that financial mirror and go, all right, it's not pretty, but I'm willing to deal with this mess that I've created. That's when someone really is going to change. And so the next thing to do is just list out all of your debts from smallest to largest balance, ignore the interest rate and go, that little one, that smallest balance, you're next. I'm going to make minimum payments on the rest and attack that one with a vengeance. And the way to do all of this, the way to actually lay it out is with a detailed budget. And so if you make your budget and you go, okay, here's my actual income for the month. Here's what comes home after taxes. Here's all of my expenses. The budget will tell you real quick the reality of your financial situation. You make $5,000, but your bills are $6,000. You're going to be $12,000 in debt a year from now. $1,000 a month. You're going to be in the hole. And so that tells you, okay, we really need to adjust our spending and we might need to adjust our income. And so I have a whole chapter called Margin is Breathing Room in the book where I lay this out. And here's the formula. Spend less and make more. That's the only way to find more margin in your money, to attack debt, to save, to get the house, to do any of that. And so I would do both. And I lay out a bunch of ways you can spend less and a bunch of ways you can go make more. But you've got to be willing to do the work. This is not a fun thing to sacrifice and start chopping out of all of your expenses that you've enjoyed willy-nilly. It's not fun to get the second or third job after you're already exhausted from your first job in order to make that margin happen to get out of debt faster. But would you rather be out of debt in 2 years with sacrifice or sit in it for the next 20, hoping that things are going to change? And for most people that follow the plan, they go, I'm all in. 2 years, let's do this. 18 to 24 months is the average time it takes to do the debt snowball in the Ramsey plan.
Because it's definitely true that you have to want to change. And I think that's the thing. People kind of go, look, I'll worry about that later. I've got to pay for my kid's christening. I've got to pay for the birthday, whatever it is. But you actually outline a lot of baby steps, and I love that approach of the debt snowball. You attack the small one to start seeing the momentum, to get the easy wins, to let it build and grow like you're rolling a snowball. Because everybody thinks pay off the biggest debt first. But like you say in the book, you don't see any movement. So you don't think you're winning. It's like when you start a diet, you don't see the numbers go down. So you think, well, I'm just going to go get, fish and chips
You'll give
tonight.
up. Yeah. The debt snowball does give you that psychological win fast because smallest balance, you're going to knock it out the fastest. That's math. And then with that payment you free up, apply it to the next debt. Now you got that one knocked out. And so you're right. You build more momentum as the snowball gets bigger. And that's what causes people to actually finish. They actually see light at the end of the tunnel instead of an oncoming train. And that's what you want when it comes to winning with money. You need a quick win to tell yourself, you know what? It's going to work this time.
Now, there's a number of great tips in the book. What would you say are the sort of key baby steps, the key principles or the golden principles? Just now, if anybody listening, you said if you did these 3 to 5 things, it would actually affect everybody. Is
Absolutely.
it budgeting? Is it paying debt off? Is it what would be the key steps, do you think?
The crux of it is the budget. That's the actual financial reality where you look at what happened this month, what came in, what went out. Imagine you were running a business. You were in charge of running the financials for a business. And you went, here was the revenue that we made. Here's all the expenses that went out. And your job is to make sure that you didn't spend more than you actually made. And most people, they don't see it like that. They just go, well, I made this much and here's what I needed to spend. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't overdraft my bank account. So what the budget does is it gives you a plan. You go, okay, here's the reality. I made 5,000. I got to spend 3,000 so that I have 2,000 to roll into the debt. And so that roadmap, that's a spit shake with you and yourself where you go, all right, this is what we're doing. Come hell or high water, we're not going to go over these categories for these amounts. Here's how much we're going to make. And I'm going to try to increase the income, decrease the expenses to widen that gap of margin to get out of debt faster. So budgeting is definitely the number one pro tip. Number two is to get out of that debt using that debt snowball. That is the path to do it. And the bonus tip inside of that is to go scorched earth, cut everything out of your life. Don't eat out. Don't invest into your whatever retirement plan you guys have, wherever you're listening. You got to go, I'm all in. Every single dime that I can free up is going to go toward my debt. And again, those are that little habits that we talked about with Ramit going, hey, forget about the latte, focus on the bigger stuff. Well, listen, the latte plus the subscription plus this plus that, all of that adds up to $100 a month. And $100 may not sound like a lot of money, but it's going to get you out of debt a month faster. And that's that level of just aggressiveness to go, I can beat that. That really helps you mature financially and emotionally. So that's the other piece is getting out of debt on top of doing the budget.
Well, that's what I love in the book. You're not saying, "Oh, you're pathetic if you stop doing this. Don't that's stupid." You're actually going, "Here's why that doesn't work. Here's what you should be doing. Here's what our readers found. Here's how I found." Or you're giving the enthusiasm and the support along the journey. You're not just telling us off like some of these big gurus. You're kind of going, "Well, come on, let me show you why this works, and this is how other people have found success." But how do you deal with the cognitive side of things? Because you'll have people who are stressed, anxiety. You'll have people who need a replacement for the fake self-esteem from purchasing the items. What can we do to those people who are going, but I need this new perfume to show off to my friends. I need this new car. How do we replace that while we're dealing with the financial? How can we fix the emotional as well as the financial?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And that's some of the hardest work, to create some boundaries, to go, you know what? I got to say no to a lot of people and a lot of things and a lot of fun things and a lot of good things, but it's a no right now. It's a temporary no so that I can say yes to what really matters later on. And that might mean I got to find new friends. A lot of times your friend group, you sort of outgrow them over time as you find that you're trying to grow and mature and they're happy to stay where they're at. And that doesn't mean they're bad people. They could be super fun to hang out with. They could be a great friend. But if they're dragging you back and they don't understand and they don't empathize with the journey that you're on trying to get out of debt, I'm going to go, hey, I'm in a season where I can't really engage because I'm on this path. If you want to be on this path with me, let's do it. Let's get some accountability. But if you're going to be here going out every weekend, I can't be a part of that right now because I'm trying to get out of debt aggressively. I'm trying to do this for my family. And so boundaries, choosing the right friend group, getting around people who are actually encouraging you instead of shaming you or making fun of you. But the good news is if people are making fun of your financial plan, you're on the right track because everyone is broke. And so usually it's envy, it's jealousy, it's misunderstanding. And that takes a lot of just emotional and relational maturity to follow a plan that is someone else's. Because I tried my plan. George's plan didn't work back in the day, trying to get out of debt with minimum payments and trying to play the game. And instead, following the Ramsey plan, I went, oh my gosh, if I'm just willing to follow a proven plan that worked for 10 million other people, I can do this stuff. And so that's the cognitive side really has to do with setting an intense goal and being willing to just get that tunnel vision to where you go, nothing else matters. I'm not going to go on Instagram and be tempted. I'm going to shut off those temptations, turn off the inputs that are causing me to stumble. And I'm also going to delete my cards out of the online stores that I shop the most and out of the apps. I'm going to pass the drive-through instead of drive-through. And all of that takes a lot of discipline. That's what the plan comes down to. And so, again, they're a great biblical principle. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but it yields a harvest of righteousness. And so you got to go, this is a temporary, short-term sacrifice, delayed gratification, so that I can have my dream life on the other side. But I can't have my cake and eat it too. I can't do whatever I want and also expect to retire with dignity and live my dreams.
Because that's the thing, it's hard to explain to a 20-year-old that you will come to 60 soon. It'll go in the blink of an eye, and before you know it, you don't have the savings because you've bought a car along the way that lasted a year to show off to your friend who you don't particularly like anyway. But you do talk a lot in the book about tackling the debt, eliminating that. Like here's the target areas to fix to go on. But you also talk about generosity as a joy. Where should we be putting money out? What are things that we could actually spend money on, to give back to help us along this journey?
Yeah, generosity is such an interesting principle. And anytime I talk about it on my YouTube channel or social media, it's so funny how angry people get. Of like, you expect me to give $1 over here and everyone's broke. And why would I give money here? And, how is this a wealth building principle? And what I found is that the people who build wealth, they're generous before they build wealth. They're just generous people. And we found that money is just a magnifying glass. So if you're a generous person when you're broke, you're going to be a philanthropist later on in life when you got a pile of money. And if you're a stingy person while you're broke, you're just going to be a stingy rich person. And so money doesn't actually define you. It just makes you more of who you are. And we're all attracted to generous people. And the byproduct is generous people tend to succeed. They tend to build wealth. They tend to have an abundance mentality. So they don't see it as a finite pie where if I give them a slice of my money, I'm going to have less money. They see it as lighting someone else's candle. I kept my flame. I'm doing okay, but I was able to help someone else light theirs because of what I've created out of the overflow of my life, the abundance of my life. And so generosity is a really interesting financial principle that most people aren't talking about outside of Ramsey, but it's a really good thing to create a habit of giving because it actually is the most fun you can have. Science has proven this, that giving money actually produces dopamine in the brain. It will light up those receptors to go, man, that felt really good to give instead of just to get. And you find that when you buy something, the joy you get from buying a thing is so ephemeral. It's just like, it's gone in the blink of an eye. You went, oh, now it's just sitting in the closet with tags on it. Felt good in the moment for retail therapy, and then it just fizzles out. Whereas giving, man, you can go back to that memory 1,000 times over and remember the look on their face, the tears in their eyes when you gave that money. And so there's a piece of this that is, it's inherently part of money. There's only 3 things you can do with it. Give it, save it, and spend it. And spending is fine. There's nothing wrong with spending money, enjoy some things, enjoy experiences. Saving is great. Yes, let's invest and save. But if we do too much of one and we don't give, we're going to get a flat tire in our life and we're going to feel a little bit purposeless. And so that generosity piece, it unlocks something within us and it helps us stay balanced for the rest of our life and helps us remind ourselves why we're building wealth. It's not for us. We're planting trees for shade that we may never see.
I love it. I mean, that's why I keep recommending this book to people, because it's one of those books that actually says you don't need to be bad with money. You don't need to just accept that, oh, you'll never have savings. No matter your position just now, you can follow your journey and go from, like you did, broke to a millionaire. And it's difficult to imagine that just now, but you explain it in by step analysis of how to do this. Here's where to start. Here's how to tackle. But what is the order of importance? I'm assuming debt's number one, but what about an emergency 6 month plan, then investments, then saving money? How do we balance? Because everybody said you got to have your emergency day fund, your rainy day fund, but you've also got to invest, but you've also got to pay off your debt, but you've also got to build up your credit score. You've also got to build da 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 da. How do we know what's the order of importance?
Yeah, the Ramsey baby steps are laid out in a very simple way, and baby steps 1 through 3 are done in order, one at a time. And so, baby step 1 of the Ramsey plan, before you do anything else, get $1,000 saved up really quick. Less than 30 days, get $1,000 in a starter emergency fund. So that little savings account, that's going to be a buffer between you and life for those little ankle biters. And the reason Dave Ramsey implemented this is because at first he started saying, hey, just get out of debt, debt snowball. But then people would have a flat tire and go, well, now I'm thrown off. Like I keep falling off the wagon because of these little emergencies. So that baby step 1 creates a little buffer between you and life so that you're not falling off every time a little thing comes your way. Once you have $1,000, then you hit baby step 2, which is getting out of all consumer debt, pay it all off using that debt snowball method we talked about, smallest to largest balance, ignoring the interest rate. Then once you have all your debt paid off, now we can move to a fully funded emergency fund. So now, baby step 1, 30 days. Baby step 2, 18 to 24 months on average. Baby step 3, to get 3 to 6 months of expenses saved up, that takes people about 6 months, maybe 12 months. And so think about that. We're talking 2.5 or 3 years to build this amazing financial foundation where you have no payments and a big pile of cash ready in case life happens, for the job loss, for the medical emergency, for the car repair, whatever it is. That is your never go into debt again insurance plan. So once you have that foundation built, now we can move on to baby steps 4, 5, 6. Now, these are done in order, but they're done simultaneously. So what you do is baby step 4, invest 15% of your household income into retirement accounts. This is where we start building for the future instead of paying for the past. Once we have the 15% of each paycheck going to retirement accounts or building some wealth, now we can put away money for our kids' college fund in baby step 5. So baby step 5 is just save for kids' college, whatever you can do. There's no obligation to fully pay for college, but at least develop a game plan if you have kids about how we're going to go debt-free, because we don't want to be a part of the student loan crisis where we took a call yesterday, John Deloney and I. This girl was $230,000 in student loan debt, making $50,000 with no real room for improvement in her career. And we're going, this is going to take 20 years to pay off at the current rate. You have to get your income up. And so the ROI just isn't there for college degrees when you factor in student loans. So once we got baby step 5, or if you don't have kids, you can skip it and go to baby step 6, which is pay off your home early. So this means putting extra payments toward the principal balance of your mortgage to get it knocked out. So instead of 30 years, let's do it in like 10. And I recommend a 15-year mortgage because it really creates a forced savings plan to where you go, in 15 years, worst case, I got this debt paid off. And most people, we found, the millionaire study, 10.2 years. They pay off their mortgage. And people following the baby steps, even faster, 7 years. And once you get through all those steps, you have no debt, the emergency fund, you've been investing, you get the home paid off, that takes you to baby step 7, which is the final step. And that's it. There's nothing beyond that. This is where you just build wealth and give. And this is a choose your own adventure. You can be way more generous. You can be invest beyond 15%. Maybe you want to buy some real estate in cash. This is where you get to do some really fun stuff. And the earlier you get there, the better life you're going to have. It's as simple as that. And so those are the baby steps that I followed to go from negative net worth to millionaire, and millions of people have done it. And so it ain't broke. Don't fix it. Just follow the plan.
Because that's why I was trying not to go too deep into the baby steps, because you put it so well in the book that it's so encouraging as well. And that's why I knew you were going to be great, because just listening to you makes me smile and go, I can do it. Even though I know where I am just now. I mean, I think I'm good with money, but just now, I bought a car at the same time while I was getting dental implants. And that was the first time I'd been in proper debt for a while. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, I hate this. I hate this. And then I was thinking, people spend their whole life doing this.
yeah.
And now I'm basically on the other side of that. I'm kind of just finishing up paying off the last of the credit card. But
Awesome.
how do we take this and future plan? Because would you want people to pay to rent versus buying? What's your take on that? And how do you change as you become a father? How do you change with you have kids, a wife to support as much as just yourself?
Absolutely. So let's talk about that first piece, home ownership. When is the right time to buy a house? How long should I rent for? And, in the baby steps, you go, wait, where was the home in this? You said pay off the home. Where was the part where I buy the home? Well, there's a hidden step called baby step 3B. So once you have no debt in the emergency fund, baby step 3B is save up a down payment for a home. And so the parameter for this is if you're a first time home buyer, it's okay to put 5 or 10% down, but you want to stick to a 15-year fixed rate mortgage. That's here in the US. I know across different countries, they have different mortgage types. But the shorter the mortgage, the faster you're going to pay it off.
No.
And so 15-year fixed rate mortgage. And here's the key. You don't want that mortgage payment to be more than a quarter of your take home pay. And so that helps you avoid what's called being house poor, where, man, you make $5,000 a month, but your mortgage is $3,000. That doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room to eat, to invest, to do much else in life. And so you got to be reasonable with that mortgage. And that might mean that you need to wait longer, save up a bigger down payment. You might need to choose a different house, might need to be a condo or a townhome or apartment instead of a single family home in the best neighborhood in town. Listen, you're not entitled to live wherever you want to live and live whatever house you want to live in. You don't deserve that house unless you can afford that house, and afford, in this case, 25%. So I always tell people, renting is not a sin. It's not a waste of money. You're buying patience. So don't listen to the people around you who are pressuring you into buying a house because they're not going to be paying your mortgage. You are. So I don't care what mom and dad said about you should be in a house buying. Listen, the house prices have skyrocketed here in the U.S. over the last few years. And so mom and dad got their house for $140,000 back in the 80s and 90s. It's not the case anymore. It's harder to buy a house now than it was back in their day, regardless of interest rates. And so there's some real math there where you got to save up a bigger down payment. We got to get our income up in order to stomach this mortgage. And then on the other side, becoming a parent, like people are having less and less kids now because they're scared of the cost. They're like, I'm not responsible enough with my own life. You want me to be responsible for a baby? And so the good news is that babies aren't as expensive as people think. You got health insurance. All right, you're not going to pay that much out of pocket to have a baby. No. The budget line item you'll add, let's add some diapers, let's add some formula. Now, daycare is going to be the biggest expense if you have two people working outside the home. But what's amazing is if you follow this plan, what happened with my wife and I is we were completely debt-free when we had our first kid 18 months ago. And so my wife decided, you know what? I want to stay home and raise our kid. And it wasn't a financial decision. It was just an emotional decision because we had the margin to go down to one income because we didn't have any debt payments. And so that's what I want to tell people is debt freedom is not about let's follow Dave because he's a genius. It's let's become debt free so that we have more options and more freedom, more flexibility with the choices we make in our life. And a lot of people don't have that flexibility because of all those payments in their life. And so when it comes to being a dad, it definitely shaped me and made me think about legacy more and less about here's what I want to do this month. Everything is now focused on, man, what can I do to raise an amazing adult that has things that I never dreamed of having because of the hard work that mom and I put in.
It's definitely true, isn't it? It gives you that option to live a life that you want, not the life that you're given. I mean, just now I'm just had my mortgage go from about $475 to I think it was 616 for a 2-year fixed rate mortgage or 635 for 5 years. And I was going through forum after forum saying, is 2-year or 5-year better? What's the best thing to do? And people are like, do you want to change it in 2 years with the extra stress? What happens if this goes out? And you could feel people's blood pressure going up and up and up. And these are decisions we're not taught. But like you're saying in the book, if we actually tackle the basics, we can develop the life that we want, get to a point where we can afford if your wife wants to stay home, if you want to maybe take a less paid job to then follow your dream or etc. But what do you do to relax? What's the guilty pleasure of yours? What's something that you do spend your money on that you think, yeah, people would ridicule me if they knew I was spending money on that?
Oh my goodness. I think if you looked at my budget right now, you would go like, you're spending how much on your dogs? And so that's the biggest line item in our budget right now is just our dog. We got 2 French bulldogs and they have to have specialty, hypoallergenic food. They go to a little doggy daycare twice a week so they get out of our hair, give my wife a break, get their energy out with some other dog friends of theirs. And so that adds up per month, but we have the margin to do it. And we do love our dogs. They sleep in our bed. So that's my guilty pleasure is spending, getting the dog groomer to show up in the driveway because they have too much anxiety to go to the pet store to get a bath. Those are the kinds of things we get to do because we have the margin to do it. And I get a lot of judgment for it because of how much my dogs are pampered. But that's the biggest one. The other one that is really great is just paying people to do things that I don't want to do. And so, lawn care. I'm like, hey, let's have them come by once a week and mow the lawn. Getting a house cleaner once a month. These are luxuries that I didn't think I'd ever be able to do, but because we followed the plan and we have the margin to do it, I can go, you know what? Either I don't want to do it or my time is worth more than that, and so I'm going to delegate it and pay someone because, again, time is the greatest asset. So to get 3 hours of my life back and not get in a fight with my wife because of who's going to scrub the grout in the shower, I'm happy to pay someone $150 once a month to come and do that for us, who's better at that, who enjoys doing it, and I get to support a small business. And so that's the kind of stuff are my guilty pleasures. It just is trading that money for time back in my life and, spoiling my family with great fun adventures, experiences, great meals, all of that stuff that back in the day I would have put on the credit card while I was broke. And now it's no problem. We just put it on the debit card and it comes out of our account instantly, and we sleep at night wonderfully.
I suppose that's like the roommate Sethi thing about the rich life. What you decide what it means to you.
Exactly.
It's getting a PT and a chef. For you, it might be having a couple extra phone chargers lying around where you need it, and your podcasting studio at the back, or whatever it is. You decide.
The little luxuries add up too. Like I got one. It's called a bed jet, and it's just a little machine that like pumps air into your bed sheets at whatever temperature and fan speed you would like.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so I sleep hot a lot of the time. And so I love just having that little, it's like $300, but it's one of these little luxuries that for someone who didn't have the money, who would have done buy now, pay later on that thing, that's just another payment in their life. And so this little things you can do to where if I just see something and it's in the budget, we go, all right, George's fun money. Let's buy an air purifier. We're really living. This is what you do in your mid-30s. This is what gets you excited.
Well, I can't believe it's been an hour. It feels like 5 minutes, honestly. I'd love to have you back on because there's so many areas to go into, and I find you such a nice guy as well.
Oh, thank you, Ian.
For people who are listening, what do you want them to take from this? Is it just the belief that they can change, that we can go from broke to a billionaire, that we can all live financially educated and appropriate life even?
Yeah, I think it goes beyond money. I think money, what we found is as people actually follow the Ramsey plan, the debt freedom is a cool thing we celebrate, but what really is happening there is transformation. They now believe in themselves. And before, they didn't really have the confidence in themselves. They thought, it's not for me. Wealth isn't for me. Freedom isn't for me. I've done too many dumb things with zeros on the end. I don't deserve. We got that call yesterday. This woman called the Ramsey Show in tears, and she said, I don't deserve a home. I live in a travel trailer with my daughter. A lot of life has happened to us, and I feel like I don't deserve it. And to give people the hope that they can transform and to drop the guilt, shame, baggage, drop the cynicism that they have, the anger they have deep inside toward the world, toward their past decisions. If we can just choose hope and choose that optimism every day and go, you know what? I'm going to do a little better today than I did yesterday financially. I'm going to do a little better today than I did the other day. That choosing positivity and optimism, even when the deck feels stacked against you, it's a tall order, and it also makes you feel invincible. And that's what I find when people visit us on the debt-free stage to celebrate their debt-free journey. They seem invincible because they know whatever comes our way, we're going to be able to overcome it because they have a belief in themselves. And that's that financial destiny piece. They're going, you know what? If I can get out of debt, I can get control of my health. I can have a better marriage. And so what excites me about following the Ramsey plan is not just the money piece, It's the piece that you believe that you can change every aspect of your life, that you can affect it, and you have agency over way more than you thought. Because most of us focus on the things we can't control. That's all the headlines, the social media stuff, what our friends are doing. Very rarely do we take stock on the things that we can control and go all in on that. And that's exactly what the Ramsey plan does. And hey, if you follow it and you get debt free and you hate it, the lenders will be happy to give you more money and let you borrow for the rest of your life. But I found the people that follow the plan, man, their life is just richer, it's more peaceful, and it's not about how much money they make. It's not about comparing their lives to others. They have found their own race and they are running it freely with so much joy.
I love that. It's, don't just get a debt, build a life that you want. And
Exactly.
I think that's the best thing about your talk show is doesn't matter how bad debt or a financial situation are, you talk them through how to do it. You might give them a bit more of a stern talking to if they need it, but you then go through with the book, you explain how to build it, encourage them to do it, and then you celebrate their successes. And you love to hear back from them. I cannot recommend this book enough for people who want to finally get control of their finances. What else can we do? Can we follow you on Instagram? What's your website? How do we follow along this amazing journey that you're going on in your own life as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, the book is a great start. It's called Breaking Free from Broke, and I did the audiobook with some music that I wrote for it, and we try to make it really fun and palatable, and you alluded to it. I wanted to just have a conversation where it didn't feel like someone's talking at you, they're talking with you. And so the audiobook is really fun. You can get the hardcover book as well, and you can jump on to George Kamel, KAMEL.com for all the resources. And if you want just some daily inspiration, encouragement, I've got a YouTube channel that has over 400,000 subscribers now. The team's put a lot of effort into it. And so we got 3 episodes a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I have another podcast with my friend Rachel Cruz, that's Dave Ramsey's daughter, that's called Smart Money Happy Hour, where we share a mocktail or a cocktail and we talk about what's going on in culture and money. So this is a great starting point. If you want to laugh and sort of accidentally learn about money, Smart Money Happy Hour is the show for you. That's on YouTube and podcast as well. And of course, the Ramsey Show airing every day. I'm jumping in there as a co-host a few times a week. I'll be on this afternoon. So if you ever have questions, I'd love to hear from your listeners. They can call the Ramsey Show live from 1 to 4 p.m. Central Time here stateside, and we'll be happy to help them out. Or send me a DM on Instagram at George Kamel. Would love to hear from your listeners if they enjoyed this.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.